Hello and welcome back to the FTC design training series, or whatever you want to call it. My name is Anton, and we are back with our uncommon common guest Raj. Raj, say hi.
Hello.
And today we will actually start to dive into at least what is in my opinion one of the most fun aspects of design, which is layout sketching. So layout sketching is 2D sketches of the bot before you actually put any 3D parts, before you actually make any 3D parts for the robot. So, an example of this would be the last year's FRC robot, which I will show in just a bit. Um, we started out by actually just sketching out the robot from a side profile with 2D sketches because unlike just making it, it helps you organize your thoughts on the robot and the different mechanisms you want to place on it very easily. And then from there on, it's a lot more easier to create the 3D printed or the 3D parts or the CNC parts or whatever you want to do. So here is the layout sketch for the FRC robot from last year. And then after it loads, like I did right now, you'll see that this does not look like a robot at all, right? I have basically no parts. Don't disregard this. I have absolutely no parts in my part studio, and it's just tons and tons of sketches that what looks like makes up a robot, right? So last year's FRC game, we had to intake some PVC pipes into the robot and then place them on high kind of beams over here. Uh, so as you see here, layouts, we basically layout sketched the PVC pipe going through our bot basically everywhere, right? Through every single step. So we first layout sketched it when it was dropped from the human player station, and then this is a funnel right here. So if, from a side profile, it looks like this would be a funnel. And then we layout sketched it going into the funnel and hitting the floor of the funnel right here. And then we actually modeled the handoff right there. And then when it was sucked into the outtake, and then when it went up from the elevator, and then when it scored. So layout sketching really helps you see how your robot will be, what's it called? Will be interacting with the game piece. And it helps you control a lot of variables such as compression, such as specific distances for the wheels, maybe some gear meshes that you want to make earlier on. So it's a very, very nice and organized step that I would highly recommend you guys to do next season. Um, Raj, any questions yet?
Nope, nothing so far.
Okay, so how an FRC season works is we usually do layout sketching at the very beginning, and then after we're done with layout sketching, we do a very rough prototype of the robot. So don't mind all those. Uh, it's taking a long time to load. I will actually go into the FRC robot cart document so you guys can see what it looks like. So here are the layout sketches, right? Here there are 3D parts, but usually what this should look like is there you go. So you see the wheels here, and then some sort of frame made out. And then if we actually go into the prototype assembly, you actually see a very, very rough assembly of the robot cart, right? Like the drawers are basically boxes, right? The frame over here is one full part when in reality it'll be multiple parts. The robot is literally just a cube, okay? And like very, very basic, no materials assigned, just to get like a general view of the robot. But before you want to layout sketch, what you actually want to do is draw out any ideas for robots that you have. Going straight into layout sketching like right away before having anything drawn out on like a piece of paper is very, very hard because the sketches in non-shape don't really act as like for example your like whiteboard or like your pen and paper, right? You actually have to kind of think about where to place the lines, and you have to assign dimensions and stuff like that. It doesn't have as much freedom as like a pen and a piece of paper, so you really want to, before layout sketching, before basically anything, get out like a piece of paper and then just very very roughly draw um, the side view, maybe even the front view, the top view of a robot that you, or like a mechanism that you possibly want to explore with layout sketching and with prototyping. Um, you don't have to be like Picasso or Van Gogh to do this. I can tell you that your drawings will probably be a lot better than mine's. Um, but it's the point is for you to get your ideas out on a piece of paper, and then from there on, after it's all at least somewhat organized, to go into the layout sketching. FTC layout sketching will be just a little bit different from FRC layout sketching because in FRC we have a lot of freedom with how long, for example, we want to make a box tube, which is the equivalent of a U channel in FTC, right? We can make it like a very weird number, like 17.375 inches long, because we just buy like a 47-inch long one and then we cut it down to length. But in FTC, you guys will have to be buying the U channels with their specific lengths off of GoBuilder. So for the dimensions of certain parts, such as U channels, you will definitely have to be referring to GoBuilder and their parts drawings. But apart from that, it will be mostly similar. I don't see it being very too different from FRC. So yeah. Um, Now, uh, we're gonna start talking about how to actually do it. So the very first sketch that you should make when layout sketching is the ground. Okay. Um, I usually make this coincident with the origin. Um, it just really helps you kind of like I'm not even joking. The ground is a very very important sketch when layout sketching. It helps you like realize that there's no just endless thing underneath your robot. Um, it just kind of like helps you like mentally process everything better. And then include on the same sketch as the ground, you want to actually draw out the um, game elements. So if you look back here, we drew out the structure for last year's FRC game. We also actually drew out where the game elements would be placed on those structures. Of course, each game is going to be different. So, and then also the um, what's it called? The human player station. Now, if you look at these layout sketches or these sketches in general, you will see that there is absolutely no detail involved, right? Like this human player station in reality is a lot more complex than just a Raj. This is a trapezoid, right?
Yep.
Okay, double checking. Then a trapezoid, right? There are there's like a couple of grooves here and whatnot. There's like a roof here. But generally, in layout sketching for field elements, you want to include parts of the field elements that will either come in contact with your robot or come in contact with a game piece. Like, for example, the roof here will definitely not come in contact with a game piece, right? I mean, it might, right? But it won't really hinder the trajectory of the game piece. Um, Same with like the robot, right? The drive base is very simple, right? These are the actual swerve modules. I guess translating to FCC terms, this is basically a motor that runs the wheels on your drive base. As you can see, there are absolutely no wheels here at all. And if I would make some wheels, it would literally just be a circle. So I would say the top the top features used when layout sketching will be circle, rectangle, and line. Like you really do not have to use anything else, like no hole pattern or anything like that. So really try to stick with those three kind of features. So after you've made the ground and the game or field elements, you want to start working from the ground up on your robot. So the second thing to make would be the drive base, right? Um, and then after you've made the drive base, you actually want to include the extension limits of the specific game that year. Um, those are really, really important, so please do include them. So for example, if I move the rollback bar all the way up to here, you'll see that the dry base is modeled out over here with a sketch, and then you'll also see that I actually use some text to signify the starting height limit, which is at this line, and also the extension limit, which is, if you keep following this line, all the way out here. Um, Again, very, very simple. I just drew a line up, a line horizontal, and then a line down, right? You really do not have to be making anything special. You want to make layout strategy as simple as possible, and you want to make them as quickly as possible, right? Um, but at the same time, you also want to make them readable, which is why I actually included text. Raj, any questions so far?
Yeah, I have a question. I don't know if you'll address this later on in the video, but let's say when I'm designing my robot, and layout sketching will give me how it'll look in 2D, but let's say if it was multiple layers, how would I represent that in this model? Like if there's one piece and then something else that's behind it.
Yes, so that is a great question. Um, if I actually go into an isometric view of this layout sketch, you'll see that it's actually a bit 3D, right? This is a
Mm-hmm.
very, very good practice for layout sketching and is something called top-down layout sketching. I think that's what it's called. Um, I will touch up on this later on, but I'll do a quick intro of it right now. So if we go back to the robot cart, um, you'll see that you can basically already make out the frame of the robot cart in with layout sketches, right? It's already kind of partially what we call 3Difying or 3Dified. And then 3Dified, to define for you guys, is when we turn the layout sketches into 3D parts. Um, so, yeah, does that answer your question, Raj?
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on. After you've made the dry base, you want to keep working from the ground up. So, oh, wrong document. So then next would come the intake, right? What I mean by the ground up is how the game element or how the game piece interacts with the robot. So, the reason why we do drive base first is because your robot will not be able to pick up the game piece without driving towards it, right? So that's why it needs a drive base. Next, what does your robot need to do? It has to actually pick up the game piece, right? Which is why it needs an intake. And then after that, it has to go into your outtake somehow, which is called a handoff. Um, I think we will make another video describing these terms for you guys later on. But handoff is basically when the game piece transitions from your intake to your outtake. And then after the handoff, of course, comes the outtake. And then you want to start working on other components, such as maybe some gear meshes and other stuff like that, right? You should also notice that I did use a lot of construction lines in the layout sketch. These are very, very helpful for showing which parts of your robot are more important than others. So, for example, if you look at this line right here, this is just meant to model the trajectory of the game piece, right? It's not really an integral part of the robot, which is why I just defined it as a construction line. Okay, so let's just quickly go through how to sketch. I don't know, we'll just go and go build right now. So the layout sketches should be, again, very, very simple, right? So let's just say I want to make a U channel. We'll go here, we'll go here, and then let's just say I want to make it 9-hole, right? So what you want to do is you want to look at this drawing over here, and then you literally just want to sketch out a rectangle. Like, not even joking, just quite literally a rectangle and then 240 millimeters long, and that's it. Um, Nothing else, right? It's that simple. And then if you are doing it from the front, just a very simple like a sketch like that showcases the front of the U channel. Yeah, again, you do not need to model out every single hole in existence on this U channel. Literally just a rectangle from the side view. If it's anything but a rectangle from the side view, I will slap you. Okay. I'll probably have to take that out of the video, huh? Anyway, um, let's just like I don't know, let's go into motion, right? And then let's just say wheels and tires. What's gonna be a mechanism wheel? It will literally just be a circle, okay? You do not need to make the mechanism wheel anything other than a circle. So please just make the mechanism wheel a circle and make it cover the outer diameter of it, right? So looking at the layout sketch or looking at the part studio drawing, you'll see that its outer diameter is 104 millimeters. So you will make your circle 104 millimeters in diameter. Roger, any questions?
How about a motor?
That's a great question. A motor, let's just say from the side view. Well, let's just say I want this one 6,000 RPM. Looking at the motor from the side view, it looks like a rectangle, right? So you're gonna simply grab the rectangle feature and then cover the motor's footprint. But you're probably asking right now that, hey, the motor is not a perfect rectangle, right? There's all these little bumps over here that like do not geometrically make it a rectangle. Well, in that case, you still want to cover the max dimensions of it, right? So you'll have to find the max width of it. If it's hopefully somewhere here, I think it's, yeah, so it's 37.5 millimeters in diameter. So you're going to make a rectangle that is 107.5 millimeters long and then a 37.5 millimeters wide, right? And then for the shaft, oh, look at this. It looks like another rectangle. So you're going to make another rectangle that's 23.5 millimeters long and 8 millimeters wide. Does that answer your question, Raj?
Yep.
So as you see, you look at the side view of something and you decide if it looks like a rectangle or a circle or something else. Anyway, so there are also some little kinks involved in where to make the layout sketches. Usually the very first layout sketches should be from the side view of the robot. Please make it consistent with the plane cube over here, right? I do not want to be looking at the front of your bot when I'm in the right plane. Okay, that's gonna make stuff very, very confusing. So make sure it's consistent with the plane cube. And then if you actually do want to make 3D sketches kind of like this, you will have to use the plane tool, which I will briefly go over right now, but I highly recommend to play around with it. So, for example, if I wanted to make a sketch over here that was, as you can see, it's on this line over there and it's kind of like 90 degrees to the right view, I will have to click on line angle and then I click on the line and then now I can put in 90 degrees and check mark and then I can make a new sketch on that plane. Then what's neat about this is I can actually use this line as a point for like coincidenting or like a midpoint. So it will probably like feel very funky at first, but it is pretty useful once you get it down, especially in representing your bot. So if we go back to the drive or the robot cart, you'll see that we did a lot of this, right? I don't know how many planes we made for this robot or this the robot cart, but I see at least 4 right now without these folders being opened. So yes, plane tool is definitely the plane feature is definitely going to be another tool being used by you guys. And then there are some rules for layout sketching. Um, you do not want to have 3D parts in the part studio where you're doing layout sketching. But there is an exception to this. So when you're first starting out with your layout sketches and like making the very first drafts of your robot from the side view and whatnot, um, you really do not want to be extruding anything. But once you have like a draft down and you just want to like be able to look at the robot in 3D with actual parts, then if you look at how we created the robot cart, uh, I'm gonna say show all parts, then you can actually start making 3D parts in it, right? This is a very good example of assembling in the part studio. So as you see here, the parts on the robot cart actually fall in place with the layout sketches, right? Like this structure over here falls into, if I open this, falls into this sketch right there, right? You see the little rectangle right here. So again, you want to assemble when you're making parts in a part studio, right? And then after you've done that, you can easily just import it into an assembly, and then put some mates on it, group everything together, and then see how it looks like, right? But again, this will be after you're done with the draft of your robot. A very big no-no is making sketches on the prototype parts. Never ever do that when layout sketching. You always want to be making sketches on planes for layout sketching, never on prototype parts, because those are subject to change. Speaking of change, you want to make sure that your sketches are changeable. So what I mean by this is you will definitely be changing the geometry of your robot. So for example, for the robot cart, let's just say I want to make this, instead of 2 feet, I want to make it 1 foot. Not 1 inch, I want to make it 1 foot. Which should theoretically break all the other sketches, right? Now, if we did this correctly, you'll see that absolutely no sketch broke apart from this, which contains a missing folder or a missing something. But apart from that, like the geometry changed flawlessly apart from this as well. But like you get the point, right? You really want to make sure that your geometry is changeable. You probably will not be changing it by such drastic like it's not gonna be as drastic changes as like 1 foot. It might be like an inch there, 3 inches there. So just be prepared for that. Um, I would actually recommend to make something and then change the dimension of like your original layout sketch, and then see what breaks, and then fix everything. Um, it takes a lot of practice to get it right, but once you do, it really helps a lot. Um, so a rule for actually making your sketches changeable without having like tens of thousands of errors after is using more geometric constraints than using the dimension feature. That helps a lot with the um, changeability of your sketches. So do that. Raj, any questions?
Yeah, I had a question, just like a little bit clarification on putting sketches on top of um, made part or prototype parts already. Do you think you could uh, repeat like what you said about that?
Yes. So for layout sketches, when making a sketch for the sketch plane, you do not want to select a part that was made for the prototype, for the very first draft representation of your robot, because of these parts are very rough. They're not finalized at all, and they definitely might break later on in the season. And then if they do break, your sketch also breaks, which is a pain because it is a layout sketch, which is kind of like the original sketch of your robot. So the only things you should be selecting for the sketch plane is quite literally planes, which is why you will need to be using the plane feature a lot. Is that good?
Yep.
All right, cool. Now let's just say you're doing a layout sketching. You're doing your layout sketching, right? So let's just say I go into the right side over here, right? And I'm dimensioning stuff. And let's just say I want to make, I don't know. I don't know how long to make this rectangle over here, right? I don't know. Should it be 17 inches long? Should it be 15 inches long? There will be a lot of instances where you will not know what to dimension something, right? Um, a big part when CADing a robot is, and I kid you not, is going with your gut, right? So that means, like, for example, if I made it 20, my gut is telling me that that's a bit too long, right? It protrudes too much on the inside. And if I made it 8, that seems too short, right? So maybe somewhere in the middle, 15, 16, something like that. And then if you generally do not know the dimension, you could ask Raj, you could ask your mentor. Um, and then what you can also do is you can make this dimension a variable. So I'll quickly show you how to do this. So that will be the driver station length, right? So I'm placing the name, then variable type, that is the length of something. And then I will make it 15 for now. So if I go back into the Part Studio and I type in driver station length, it pops up. You press enter 2 times, and that's it. Now you have a variable there. This makes things pretty easy to change. So for example, I can make this 14 inches and it automatically changes in your Part Studio. Pretty nifty and pretty useful. Definitely use that for parts that are subject to change. Raj, any questions?
No, nothing so far.
Okay. And then that looks like it's mostly it for this video. So next video we will be getting into a bit of 3D layout sketching, or how I like to call it, top-down layout sketching, where I'll be talking about how to make layout sketches like this, where it's kind of 3D and you can already see like a 3D representation of your robot just through 2D sketches. So yeah, I know that was a lot of information. Not too sure if you understood it all. If you are still confused, definitely ping me and we can go on a call or we can just text. Raj, any final questions or comments?
No, I think
All right,
it's good.
cool. See you guys in the next video.